Men of Interest here, and it's time for the long-awaited Nathan Kim interview. But before we get to the interview, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor for this video, Kono.store. Over at Kono.store, you can check out the awesome Kira Stealth, which is the sleek, all-metal version of the Kira keyboard. Check out this 96-key wonder over at Kono.store when you get a chance. And also, sign up for their mailing list to get updates on their new silo switches that they'll be working on. So keep that in mind because it's going to be pretty awesome coming up. Without further ado, let's get to the interview. Hey everyone, I'm in San Jose, thanks to Input Club who's letting me use this ever so wonderful office. And today I am joined by Nathan Kim, aka the K-pop star of keyboards.
Is that a new title?
Yeah, I thought of that on the drive up here this morning, actually. I knew I had to incorporate that in some way. Thanks for coming through and joining me here. I know
problem.
It's a little bit of a drive for you as well, but it's nice.
Nowhere near
nice
as bad as yours.
It's a nice day. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, yeah. Excited to be on this pilot episode for Man of Interest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I guess let's get started. I think it's unarguable to say that you are currently probably one of the hottest keyboard streamers right now. How does that feel? Like, at what point did you realize, like, hey, I have something going on here?
It feels great, obviously, but it's obviously not possible without the people who are watching me. So a huge thank you to everyone who has been watching me. I've definitely seen some tremendous growth since the first year I started. So yeah, it's just really cool to see that a keyboard stream, from our little community is making it mainstream. It's just kind of crazy to think about it. When did I realize that? I don't know when I realized it. I guess the day I started to attempt to hit partner is the day I kind of realized maybe there is a potential for a keyboard stream to go mainstream. So yeah, I have been trying to hit partner for a couple months now. So
well, hopefully by the time this airs,
yeah, hopefully.
Partner.
Yeah.
For those of you who are wondering, we are recording this a bit early. He's not partner as of this recording, but hey, I bet you by the time you watch this, hopefully you'll have hit it by then.
I might not have. Apparently, Twitch can take up to 3 months.
Yeah, it says like a week, right? According to their things, like, it can take a week.
Yeah, they said we'll usually get back to you in a week, but supposedly it's more like weeks. Yeah.
So since you've been doing a lot of streaming, a lot of building, especially you've also been doing some non-building stuff, which has been really fun to watch. What's one of the biggest difficulties of streaming keyboard content that other people may not realize? It's more than just going in front and just building a keyboard. What's the other difficulties that maybe people might not foresee?
Difficulties. Well, so one of the things is I'm usually building customer keyboards on stream, so you have to be careful with what you're doing. I used to charge an hourly rate for my build services, and I kind of realized that's kind of hard, especially if you're interacting with chat. It eats up on your build time, and you don't want to overcharge customers for that. So I am going to move to a flat rate price based on that. But other than that, difficulties, I think the most difficult part is just interacting with chat, keeping it active while you're building a keyboard. Sometimes you can get distracted and you just kind of end up not building something, or you just want to build something, but you'll have to interact with chat, so you have to find the right balance for that.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So, quick about your background. I think you've mentioned either on stream or Discord in the past that you have a family in SoCal. Were you SoCal born and raised, or from NorCal?
I am not SoCal born. I was born in Korea, but I am SoCal raised.
So, did I drive up here on 99, or did I drive up here on the 99?
You drove up here on the 99. For sure,
So, from your transition from being raised in SoCal and being up here in NorCal for your work now, do you ever feel like you pick up a lot of, like, the lingo, how people talk around here, like saying hella or saying jank instead of ghetto?
So I don't think jank is a NorCal thing. I used to say jank growing up. Hella is definitely new. I was not exposed to it until I came up here. I had never heard of that word actually before at all in SoCal. So yeah, I have picked up hella I don't know if there are other NorCal lingos, but hella for sure. It's part of my vocabulary now. Yeah,
It's definitely one of those things people don't realize until they're really in the area.
yeah.
A lot of people at the meetup thought it was weird when they started hearing
Oh,
that.
they did. Okay.
Yeah, because for the last meetup, quite a few people like flew in and stuff.
Yeah.
And what's this hella hella? So being here in the Bay Area, I go up here quite often. This seems like almost one of the keyboard meccas
Yeah.
of the community. How do you feel about like, hey, it's just the nice convenience of being so close? I know you did a keyboards and coffee sometime last year.
Yeah, well, I didn't organize it. Someone else did. I just attended it, and then I happened to film it. And I'm sure you're the one who organizes these NorCal meetups. So it's pretty cool to be in like. I think it's safe to say NorCal has the biggest scene of mechanical keyboard enthusiasts. So that is pretty cool, and it does give me a lot of benefits. I have access to a lot of members that I can just hit up or companies that I can hit up. A lot of well-known vendors and just community members. So yeah, it's pretty convenient. Like meetups definitely aren't hard in the Bay Area. You can kind of, if anyone really wanted, they could just organize a mini meetup the day of.
Yeah.
People might show up, honestly. So yeah, it's really convenient. And it's also kind of cool that people are willing to fly out here just for a meetup because, meetups, I wish are more of a prevalent thing and it would help people starting out as well a lot. But yeah, it's great that NorCal provides that for a lot of people here.
So I think one of the big reasons that NorCal has been such a big mecca is the large tech industry. 'Cause I think it's pretty common for a lot of people in this area to basically live on their computer, whether at work or at home all day. But how about yourself? How do you involve your keyboards in your professional life? Do you bring them to work? Do you have a work board, or do you rotate through work boards? How does that go for you in your professional life with keyboards?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually got into keyboards because I studied computer science. So I pretty much lived on a computer in college. I'm the rest of my life as well too. But yeah, I do bring keyboards into work. I rotate them not as frequently as I do at home. I rotate them maybe like every couple months. I also have all my keyboard stuff sent to my work. If I have it sent to my house, there's a high chance it gets stolen. So my cubicle is filled with keyboard stuff. All my coworkers know me as the keyboard guy. I just have keyboards at my work because I don't have enough space in my room back at home. So yeah, I do rotate and bring my own keyboards to use at work. I don't have like a dedicated work board though, although I prefer to use at least a TKL at work because it's just work and I need the numpad quite often. So yeah.
How about noise in keyboards in your
noise?
work?
Oh, well, that's fine. Despite being a mechanical keyboard enthusiast, my keyboard is not that loud at work. I have tons of coworkers who just use stock MX Blues, and they're way louder than I am. Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, that's one of the benefits of working at a tech company. They're okay with that kind of noise because a lot of software engineers like to invest in a nice keyboard, and people know that.
I feel like the true secret is if you're a manager at a tech company, as long as you can hear the chattering, hear the keyboards, you know people are being productive.
Yeah.
If it's silent, no, you can't tell
Yeah.
that there's a problem.
Or they're just on Discord all day long. You never know.
So speaking of community, speaking of meetups, so one of the big things about meetups that I think you've noticed as well as I, whether it's here in Northern California or basically anywhere you travel, there seems to be a connection in our community between meetups and the popularity of Korean barbecue. As a Korean, any insight possibly why?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I grew up in SoCal and the LA area, so Cape barbecue was always accessible to me. But I'm like slowly realizing that it's not that accessible for a lot of people, especially for people who live out of state. So yeah, I guess that's just kind of, I don't know. I never thought that would have been a thing, but I mean, I haven't met many people who hate Korean barbecue. Korean barbecue is like fairly a good bargain for what you get in terms of just sheer quantity and quality. So yeah, I guess I'm proud that Korean barbecue is a thing that goes hand in hand with meetups. But yeah.
That's good. So at least with my experience with Korean barbecue, you're right. A lot of people haven't been exposed. Almost every single time I go to a meetup, I'm always asking, what's Korean barbecue?
Yeah.
Or I'm at a table and I have to cook for people who've
Yeah.
never had it and are unfamiliar or uncomfortable cooking the raw meats. In that experience, a lot of people try to stick with a lot of safe choices. But what do you think is maybe the most underrated item at Korean barbecue that maybe someone who hasn't tried it should at least give it a try?
Ooh, should give a try. I would say this is probably not available at all Korean barbecues, and if it is, it might not be in the first like basic tier. But I would say try cow tongue. Cow tongue is actually really good. Like it sounds disgusting, and in theory it sounds disgusting, but it actually tastes really good. The texture is pretty nice too, actually.
Is it chewy like intestine or?
It's slightly chewier than like brisket per se, but it's not. It's nowhere near like intestine level.
Okay.
Like yeah, you shouldn't have trouble swallowing it and breaking it down. But cow tongue is pretty good.
So your Discord has definitely seen quite a growth in the last couple months for sure. Congratulations, by the way. I know you've
Thank you.
just signed on with Dixie Mecca as one of your sponsors, and you've been working with a few other sponsors like Novel Keys. How has working with sponsors changed for you in terms of streaming? Because when you first started streaming, like me, when we first started doing content, not really sponsors, didn't really exist, right? Now it seems like with the growth of the community, we can have more sponsors, more opportunities. How has it been balancing sponsor relations with doing your streams?
So sponsors definitely help me a lot. As your platform grows, there are more products that people ask you to review and talk about. And, as a single person, I can't buy all the products that are out there. I mean, I wish I could, but I'm not rich enough to buy all the products out there. So one of the ways that sponsors greatly help me improve my content is that they send me their latest products for me to check out, to review, talk about on stream. So that not only helps with exposure for my sponsors, but it gives me just content to talk about. So I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship that I have with them. And they also provide me help whenever I need. Without the help of my sponsors, I would not have been able to afford some of the new equipment that I have for upping my production value. So yeah. I think sponsors are a good thing.
That's good. And in terms of content, we're both like opposite sides of the same coin. We both do video content, we both do stream content, except you're much more stream heavy, I'm much more video heavy. How do you balance? I know you also, from time to time, will release a video review for products. How do you balance your schedule and your life and work between content that why is it, for example, some products you talk about on stream, whereas some are just the video?
Okay. So I don't know if I want to be fully like more streaming than video. I'm just currently more of a streamer now because I'm trying to hit that partner requirement. I think if once I do hit partner, I'll try to make it more half and half. But I am definitely lacking on the more just dedicated content video side. But in terms of balancing what I talk about on stream versus making a dedicated review for, I think, let's say it's the what have I not done a video? Like the new cream update. I initially received the pre-production creams. You received the production creams. So I don't think it's worth another video for me to talk about making that on. So that's something I'll talk about on stream. Let's say something like the matcha switches, where essentially it's just a recolored Gatoron switch. So I don't think it's worth making a fully dedicated video for. So yeah, just things like that. I reserve dedicated videos for more, newer products and more novel products that don't have a lot of history yet.
That's good to know. So in reviewing products, 'cause I also review products, maybe this will help me as well. When you review something, what are the maybe top 2 or 3 things that really matter to you? For example, let's say a keyboard. What are the 2 or 3 things when you look at a keyboard and you have to analyze it for the sake of sharing that analysis with other people? What are 2 to 3 things that you will point out always?
So my viewers probably know this. I am willing to sacrifice out a little bit on the feel for an improvement in aesthetics and the acoustics. So I know some people, for them, feeling is the most important part. But for me, like how my keyboard looks, especially on my desk, and just how much I like the design language of it. That's pretty important for me, as well as how it sounds. So that's something I will point out the most in my videos. And despite me looking like a very experienced person, I'm fairly new compared to like some of the more veteran reviewers like you. So I don't think I'm like fully qualified to talk a lot about the feel yet. There are still a lot of things I haven't tried and things I need to learn about as well. So yeah, for now I focus on aesthetics and acoustics.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely something a lot of people go back and forth on is sound versus feel, and I definitely understand that quite a bit. So in terms of sound, to you, what are ideal characteristics of sound?
Ideal characteristics would be the thok. I like the
Thok.
bassier sounds. I'm not a I'm not a fan of like high pitched noises. So definitely the thok, and we've talked about this before. I like the creamy sounds. I don't know what exactly constitutes creamy, but when you hear a creamy sound, you know it's creamy.
So in your experience, what usually contributes more to that creamy sound you enjoy? The switch itself and how it's modified, or the keyboard it's built in?
I would say that definitely has to do more with the switch. It doesn't really affect the keyboard, but I mean the plate and the mounting and just how much material there is in the keyboard definitely contributes to the sound as well. But yeah, that is definitely more of a switch related feature than this board.
Okay. And so far, in your opinion, what's been the thockiest keyboard? The one that
The
gives you the most
thockiest.
satisfaction that you've built in terms of the sound?
I do think Topra is still the thockiest. Lubed Topra 55 gram is still the thockiest board I have seen, but that's not really like that's not a board I built, I want to say. Like it's already built, I just tuned it. In terms of a custom that has the thockiest sound, ooh, that's hard. Maybe just retooled or vintage blacks, maybe just lubed with, yeah, either retooled or vintage blacks or maybe MX's Islands. It's quiet, but it does have a nice deep thok.
Yeah, MX Islands
Yeah.
are pretty well done. So with a lot of great boards that can contribute to sound, has it helped you really kind of shape what kind of designers you really like in the community in their terms of their boards?
That's kind of hard. Like you can't tell by looking at a board how it's going to sound when you build it. So you can't. I don't think you can really purchase a board with the intent to predict what sound signature it's going to have. So when I look at boards that I like, it's mostly how much do I trust the designer as well as how good does it look for me personally, or if it's something like really new. Like the Xeno, I think was a good example. It had a nice blend of aesthetics, but it also offered a half plate, which is something that's kind of new to the community. So that is why I went in for the Xeno.
Good call. Yeah,
Yeah.
Xeno is definitely a good option.
Yeah.
So who are your favorite designers for keyboards, and what established them to be among your favorites?
Ooh, this is gonna like ruin friendships afterwards if I don't name a designer. Favorite designers. So I would say Yuxi is definitely up there. TGR boards. I have pretty much owned all of his boards except for the 910 series at one point in my life. Who else is there? I have been liking Quantrix's work as of late. And if you guys have been watching my YouTube channels, I used to be a huge Duck fan as well. I think all my first typing tests were pretty much all of my Duck series boards. So Duck is up there. LZ, depends. I like some of his stuff. I don't like some of his stuff. Ryan Norbauer, I like his work as well. Who else? Yeah, I would say those off the top of my head.
Is there any designer in which you would blindly buy a board from?
Blindly buy,
Blindly.
like assuming I had infinite cash.
Yeah, assuming you had infinite cash, the issue wasn't the money. The issue is, would you just trust that person to make you a board?
Yes, that would be Yuxi and Ryan. I think both designers in particular are very meticulous about the products they send out. With like Duck and LZ, they tend to, not that this is a bad thing, but they like to experiment a lot. So sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But I think Ryan and Yuxi, they won't put out an experimentation unless they like it themselves or it meets some level of standard. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm pretty similar in how I feel. Those two definitely would be on mine. And I understand what you mean on Duck, because
Yeah.
on one hand you might get like something nice and classy, like a Viper V2.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you might get a
Deagle.
TC V3.
I think TCV3 is fine, but the Deagle is like questionable.
That's true. That one is, oh, yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we're going to ruffle some feathers next, but what designer have you been the most disappointed in one board that they've done? Like a designer where you've held them in relatively high esteem, but just one board kind of like, why did you do this board?
That's kind of hard. I don't buy bad boards. Let's see. Why did they do that? Maybe the E6. So I didn't join in on the E6, but I have built a couple for customers, and I didn't realize until I built it that the spacing was not the standard 19.05 millimeters. It was 19 millimeters, and I was like, "Why would you do this?" It wasn't mostly an issue except for the bottom row with the space bar and the mod keys next to it. I think all of the E6s I built, they were pretty much scraping each other on the bottom row. So I guess that's one thing. I mean, not that the E6 is bad, but I do question why they went with the 19 millimeter spacing. Yeah.
So there are a lot of norms and culture that, form the backbone of our community that have been formed over the last 3-4 years now. And a lot of people use these norms, this culture, when they get into it as their background, as their foundation for getting into keyboards. If you had a time machine and you can go back in time to possibly tweak or change any of these norms or customs within how people view keyboards in our community, would you or want to change any of them?
Yeah. So I don't know if this answer would count. It might be too far back, but I would go back a couple decades and make Alps the winner over Cherry in terms of mainstream keyboard switches. If you guys watch my videos, you guys know I'm a pretty big Alps fan. And yeah, I wish Alps were here to stay. But unfortunately, they have died. But if I were to answer with a more contemporary choice, I might say that I wish hot swap was more of a thing. As my platform has kind of grown, I am attracting a lot of newcomers into the hobby who have no experience at all, and a lot of them are looking for hot swap, but there just aren't many hot swap options currently available right now.
So you also mentioned Alps. What do you find so appealing about Alps? Why should someone who hasn't had a chance to try Alps yet even just give it a shot when it's difficult to find at times, can be pricey at times? Why should someone still consider giving it a shot?
So I think Alps really shine with their tactile and clicky switches. Their linears, like if I had to choose between only using one linear for the rest of my life, it would still be vintage blacks. I would choose a MX linear over any Alps linear. But with tactiles, with the way the tactile leaf works and how it bangs against the entire case, I just think it's a superior method of generating tactility than versus a bump that Cherry style switches use. So that's why I really like tactile Alps. Clicky Alps, there are like the thick clicks. I think those are a great innovation. That's a great way to generate that click noise as well as tactility. But it's a little too much for me at times, and I think the Alps clickies, it still gives me that satisfying sound without as much tactility on my fingers. Yeah.
Hello everyone, just wanted to give another sponsor shout out for this video. Special shout out to Zeal PC, which has an awesome stock of amazing switches. Check out the wonderfully tactile Xylens and Zelios, the amazing Telios and Helios, as well if you're looking for some smooth, linear, buttery goodness. Consider using my affiliate link, zealpc.net/man of interest, where I will get a small kickback for any purchase you make. Every purchase you make will help my channel tremendously. So if you do it, thank you so much. Let's get back to the last part of this interview. What is your favorite key set and why?
Ooh. So when Mech Merlin asked me this at the NorCal meetup last year, I believe I replied with GMK9009, and that was because my first choice had been taken. So I guess I can reveal my first choice here. I think if I had to choose one set, it would be GMK camping for me. I first saw SA camping, and that was pretty much like love at first sight. And then when I realized that the GMK version was coming out, I like instantly joined in on it. I think I initially joined in for 2, and then realized I was being irresponsible, and then canceled one of the orders. But yeah, I still have one. Yeah.
So, as one of the top streamers right now, what do you feel like you do differently compared to a lot of the other keyboard streams out there?
Differently, honestly, I don't think I build keyboards in a special way or build in a different manner from any of the other builders out there. I think the one thing that I do differently perhaps is that I branch a little bit outside of keyboards. Like I did a mukbang recently. Maybe that there might be more of those. I do a lot of more personable and what Twitch would call the IRL categories outside of streaming that are just kind of chill and personal sessions where I just interact with the chat. So I think that's one thing that helps, just being personable and getting to know your audience personally.
And that definitely leads to my next question. So what's next in keyboard streaming for you? You've done a lot of builds. You're opening up to do more, as you say, IRL category kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to see next in terms of maybe categories or specific streams on Twitch?
Ooh, that's hard. So I have thought about that. Like, how long can I just be a streamer, just building a keyboard every week? Like, do people really want to see me build a keyboard, and that's it? So that's why I just kind of like to throw in these little IRL streams. I have gotten a couple requests for bringing a guest on sometimes, but that's kind of like what Top Clack does, and I don't want to really step on their toes. But like I've had Pudsey on call a couple times, and we kind of go into like a little deeper into the topics versus like what Top Clack goes into. Some people have asked me that can I coach them over like a Skype session on stream? So that's kind of interesting. That is something I am considering, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet. That's something I have to come up with. For now, I think build streams are here to stay. I mean, it's always interesting to see nice new builds, especially since we have so many new customs coming out. But yeah, those are just some of the 2 things that I've been thinking about lately.
The magic of editing. So it's funny you say that, the coaching part, because aren't there people who, like, for esports, like, actually pay for, like, StarCraft coaches? Like, isn't that already, like, an established thing? Maybe you could be the first keyboard coach.
I mean, that's a thing, but, like, with, like, games, it's just something you can practice on your own, but, like, I don't know how I would teach someone to solder with my mouth over a stream call. I feel like for soldering and that kind of stuff, you kind of have to be there in person to show with your own hands. But yeah, I have had a couple legitimate requests where people were saying, I will pay you for a Skype session to help me build this keyboard of mine, because they don't want to pay for the shipping costs. So yeah, I don't know how that would work. That could be something I can work out, but yeah.
What is the most ridiculous build request you've ever received?
Most ridiculous build request. I honestly don't get too many ridiculous build requests. It wasn't until recently that I touched a KBD fan's tofu. Like, other than that, they have all been pretty much what people consider nicer customs. I have received a couple requests for I believe it was like a Nordic dedicated keyboard, but they wanted me to basically take the Microsoft 4000 ergonomic keyboard, and it's a rubber dome keyboard, I believe, and then make it mechanical. And I was like, I don't know if that's possible. But yeah, that would be the weirdest request I've had. I had to turn them down.
I'm sorry, I do not know how to CAD a keyboard up for you and manufacture it.
Yeah, I don't know how to change your rubber dome into a Cherry MX switch.
How do you feel about the Nathan Kim spec label potentially increasing the price of a keyboard?
Ooh. So I actually did mention this on stream, one of my streams. I'm very flattered that Nathan Kim spec is a term slash meme in the community. But I do have some issues with it. For one, like I do see a couple items being sold as NK spec when I literally had nothing to do with the build. People will kind of just throw that term around if it's built with the exact same configuration as I have. And yeah, that might kind of confuse buyers into thinking that I built it or something. So that's one kind of caution I would say to everyone. NK Nathan Kim spec doesn't really mean anything, and like I said before, I don't really build keyboards in a special way. I think that really warrants that kind of thing. I have put out tutorials of exactly what I do. I share what I do on stream, and I don't think it's anything special. It's just the fact that I'm building it. But I mean, it is a nice feeling knowing that people are using my name to meme, I guess. Yeah.
What is one thing every keyboard builder should keep in mind when building their first keyboard?
One thing they should keep in mind. I should say just be confident about it. I think soldering is something that a lot of people take as being a really hard task. But I think the truth of the matter is soldering isn't honestly that hard. Assuming you're soldering at the right temperature with a good enough solder, it's kind of hard to like burn your PCB. You honestly just need to solder a couple switches or even a couple boards, I guess. But soldering honestly isn't that hard. So I say, just don't be afraid to solder. Don't worry about ruining your PCB. Just go for it.
Is there an underrepresented trend in the keyboard community you'd like to see more of?
Underrepresented trend, ISO.
Yikes.
Underrepresented trend. Ooh. Well, right now, Hiragana is kind of it was popular and then it's kind of dying down. I think Hiragana is being overplayed. I would like to see more Hunger sub legends coming out because I do think Hiragana looks better aesthetically. I don't know if that's because I'm not Japanese, but maybe it might be the foreign aspect of it being novel to me. But functionally, Hunger sub legends are something that I really want and need. I can touch type in English, but not in Korean. So that is something I would like to see kick off. Another trend, I mean, Alps, if Alps is possible.
If only.
Yeah, if Alps is possible. Yeah, and I guess hot swap maybe cheaper and budget friendly options.
In terms of a lot of new people getting into this hobby, what have you noticed is a bigger pull for a lot of the newcomers? Keyboards or keycaps?
Ooh, I would say keyboards. A lot of newcomers don't really know about GMK or SA, those like nice high-end keycaps. And most likely, if they are a newcomer, they're already used to the gamer font and they're most likely okay with it, I would say. So they care more about the board itself than keycaps. So yeah, I would say keyboard definitely. People want hot swap. They still want RGB when they start off. That's a lot of question I get. Like, does this support hot swap and RGB? And then a lot of questions about switches as well. So I would say keycaps are kind of developed after that.
So as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot more newcomers into the scene, especially watching your content, which has been great for them. Do you feel like there's been any difficulties in trying to help newcomers to the community learn about different switches, different keyboards, keycaps, manufacturing, and all that jazz associated with this hobby?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've talked to you about this before too. I think we're in a dire need of a centralized wiki. I mean, Reddit has this mechanical keyboard subreddit has one, Desk Authority has one, Geekhack has one. No, but I mean, there's like tons of information on Geekhack, but you got to search for it. There's no like one place or one vendor that has the whole package. Like KBD Fans is kind of getting there. They're stocking switches, kits, plates, PCBs, whatnot. Like Novel Keys has switches, but they don't really have kits. Same with Zeal. So yeah, it's kind of hard to just send newcomers to a page that explains everything. Even with like switches, like you have your which switch series, but outside of that, you just kind of have to Google search multiple sites and then gather knowledge on your own. So yeah, it would be nice if there was a centralized wiki that was informative and kept up to date.
So I'm not too big into artisans, but I know you've been definitely gaining interest in artisans lately. Can you tell me a little about that?
For sure, yeah. I mean, so I was into artisans initially. If you guys have watched and followed me from the beginning, all of my initial typing tests had a shishi on the escape key. I wasn't too deep at that point, but like shishi was the one sculpt that I really liked, so I collected a couple of those. And then I ended up selling that entire collection because I was like, this is dumb. Why am I spending this much money on artisans? And it was also at the time where my channel was starting to kind of kick off, so I needed the funds at that point to purchase new keyboards for material or for content and up my production value. But now that I have something kind of established, I am returning back to the artisan scene, and it's been nice. I used to be very selective about what I like. I would say I'm still pretty selective. I don't just buy any artisan, but there are a couple scopes that I like and I wish I could purchase, so I do hone in on those. And one of the reasons for me returning back to artisans is that I feel like as much as there is kind of a divide between the artisan community and the keyboard community, like you can't really talk about the keyboard scene without mentioning either of them. And I felt that as a keyboard content creator, that I needed to experience this side of the hobby as well in order to give somewhat of an informed opinion.
I think that's just about it for what I needed to ask you.
Ooh,
We're good.
is it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed the interview. Nathan Kim was an absolutely wonderful person to work with and interact with. I'm sure you guys have all seen his wonderful content. And if you haven't, look in the description where you can find links to Nathan Kim's wonderful YouTube channel and wonderful stream. I highly recommend you check all of his content out. Thank you, Nathan, for being such a great sport and joining me in San Jose for a wonderful interview. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and let me know what you guys think of the interview. Let me know what you think of Nathan Kim in the comments down below, and let me know who you'd like me to interview next. Always excited to go travel and meet new people or talk with old friends and see what's happening in the world of keyboards from all sorts of different perspectives. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.